When it comes time to shop for fountain pen gifts, it's always helpful to start with a budget in mind. And if you're shopping for someone who's a dedicated fountain pen user, they'll probably have their own wish list that you can pick from. But the point of this video is to give you some ideas for pen, ink, and paper sets that you can give to someone in your life who isn't maybe quite as familiar with the fountain pen world and could maybe use a helpful introduction. Given the thousands of different products that we have at GouletPens.com, I thought it'd be helpful to curate some of my recommendations so that you can start with a budget that you have in mind and pick up some fountain pen items to give to someone who's been curious to see what the whole fountain pen thing is all about. It's worth noting that I'm making this video at the end of 2023, so all of the prices that I mentioned here can change over time. Make sure to check Goulet Pens for the current price. There will be links to everything that I mentioned in this video down in the video description. I'm gonna start with the most accessible budget and go up from there. And many of the products that I'll be recommending can be swapped out for each other, so be sure to watch through the whole video. Even if the overall budget isn't in your range, I think you can still benefit from seeing my whole list, and you can kind of cherry pick individual items if you like. Let's begin with under $10. Your options here will be somewhat limited, but that doesn't mean that you have to get junk. For the pen, I've selected the Pilot Varsity. And that's also your ink, since it comes preloaded in the pen. Now, these are technically disposable pens, but for somebody totally new to the hobby who you think might be hard on their first pen, or maybe they'll lose it, it's a low-risk purchase. They have black, blue, and purple colors individually, or you can get a mixed 7-pack. So if you're buying for several people and want to get a wide variety, you can do that and sort of split them up. The Varsity has a medium nib, which writes surprisingly well for the price. It's definitely a pleasant introduction to fountain pens. Heck, even if someone is already into fountain pens, a Varsity is always handy to have as a spare. For my paper choice, I'm going with the Marmon Nemosini B7 notepad. You get some nice, smooth paper and a convenient steno pad that's perfect for carrying around in a pocket or purse. It's a good example of what nice paper can feel like, even if someone's never used fountain pen friendly paper. Moving on up to the $10 to $25 range, I'm going to recommend the Platinum Prefonte as my pen choice. It's built around the popular Platinum Preppy mechanics, but it will look a little nicer overall. There are 5 jewel tone colors to choose from, and you can pick from a fine or a medium nib, though I'd recommend medium if you're just not really sure which one to pick. The Prefonte can take cartridges or bottled ink, but for this price range, I recommend the cartridges because they're more affordable and a little easier to use, and then you don't have to buy the extra converter, so it helps save the cost. Now, Platinum makes their own proprietary cartridges, and while they have several different colors, I recommend Platinum Carbon Black. It's a pigmented ink, and though it's slightly higher maintenance than non-pigmented ink, this pen seals really well, and the ink performs great on a lot of different papers and is quite water resistant and UV resistant. For paper, I'm gonna recommend my absolute go-to paper gift item, the Rhodia A5 dot pad. Even if the person you give it to doesn't stick with fountain pens, they'll appreciate this paper no matter what they're writing with. It's smooth, but not too smooth. It has a familiar tearaway top-bound format that's perfect for to-do lists and quick notes, and the dot format is versatile and quite popular. For all the price points here and higher, I could easily recommend this notebook. This is the #1 paper product that I personally recommend for everyone getting into fountain pens. All right, we're getting a little more serious now in the $25 to $50 range. For a pen, I'm gonna go with the TWSBI Eco or Eco T. There are over a dozen different color options, so pick whichever you think would suit your recipient best. Clear or black is always a pretty safe bet. They have a bunch of nib sizes to choose from, but go with fine as a good default nib size if you're not really sure what they're gonna prefer. Another reason that I like TWSBI is they have a really nice presentation and packaging, which you don't necessarily always get with pens in this price range. And given that it's a piston pen, it could be argued that this pen is a little bit more complicated to fill than maybe just using a cartridge converter pen, but it comes with good instructions and tools for maintaining the pen. And we have some videos that will help with that too. For ink, let's go with the Diamine 30 ml ink bottle. Diamine makes some tremendous inks, and 30 mils of ink will last the average writer probably a year or more. Some colors I can easily recommend are Oxblood, Majestic Blue, Marine, and Sherwood Green. Now for paper, check out the Clairefontaine Classic Wirebound A5. Clairefontaine actually owns Rhodia, so both their papers are phenomenal. Clairefontaine branded paper is going to be a little thicker and a little smoother than Rhodia, which I personally love. The Wirebound format is a little more portable than the Rhodia top-bound tablet, and they have multiple cover colors, but they're packaged in assorted colors, so you sort of just get what you get, and that's kind of the only downside of this. In the $50 to $100 price range, your options start to open up a bit more. The paper and ink will reach somewhat of a price ceiling as we climb higher. It'll mostly be the pens that get more and more impressive. Now, I debated about trying to vary up the brand choice here, but the TWSBI 580 was just too compelling for me in this price range. It operates very similar to the Eco, but it has a nicer overall appearance, and the presentation and packaging are even nicer. There are several colors and variants of the 580, including the 580 AL and ALR. Now these prices can go up just a little bit, but you can always opt for maybe a less expensive ink or paper in this price range if you want to splurge a bit more on the pen, but still keep within your budget. For ink, let's go with the Pilot Iroshizuku 50 milliliter ink. They have beautiful bottles. The ink is very well behaved. Nice colors to choose from like Konpeki, Yamabudo, and Kujaku. And when in doubt, a bottle of Konpeki is going to be my default ink gift for someone. For paper, let's broaden our horizons here a little bit and go for the Notebook Sampler Package Set. With this, they're gonna get to test Apica, Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, Maraman Namasani, Travelers, and Rhodia. And heck, if you want to cherry pick out one or two of these for yourself and give away the rest, I'm not going to judge you. Now, in the $100 to $250 range is where things start to get a little more interesting, as gold nib pens are potentially going to be on the table here. Now, I don't know if I'd particularly go with a gold nib for someone who's never used fountain pens before, but that's going to be totally up to you. If it's a special milestone like an anniversary, graduation, or retirement, I think a nicer pen like that could definitely be warranted. So with that in mind, my pen choice here is going to be the Pilot E95S. It has a timeless design that looks classy, but not so nice that people are going to feel like they can't use it. The 14 karat nib is nice and bouncy, and it's a fantastic writing experience. I would recommend a fine or maybe a medium. For ink, how about Ferris Wheel Press, 38 milliliters. The bottle and the packaging look amazing, and there's some really nice colors like Tanzanite Sky, Edward's Garden, and Stroke of Midnight. The ink really has a boutique feel to it as well. Here, I'd say that the paper choice might have a little less impact. It's gonna be the pen that's gonna get most of the attention, but you could certainly go with any of the notebooks I've already recommended. But just for fun, I thought I'd throw in some stationery options here, like Clairefontaine Triumph. They have tablets, notebooks, and envelopes. Now, if you thought regular Clairefontaine paper was smooth, Triumph is gonna make that feel like sandpaper. Okay, not really, but Triumph is just really freaking smooth. Or you could get some original Crown Mill tablets or stationery sets. Crown Mill is gonna be more of an off-white and have a bit more of a textured feel to them, but the packaging is really great. Now, of course, you can get stationery anywhere, for all different types, but both the Clairefontaine and the Crown Mill are gonna be specifically fantastic for fountain pen ink. All right, so here's where the doors come off in the $250 plus realm. But I won't go too crazy here. Certainly you can spend as much as you want, but it's gonna be a little less common to splurge on pens in the $250 plus range if somebody's never used a fountain pen before. But I'll give you a few different recommendations that would be great for any gift recipient, no matter their experience level. I'll try to stay pretty grounded when it comes to the price though. I'm gonna break form just a little bit here and go with more than one pen recommendation because there's just so many options in this price range. I promise you, this isn't a classic Brian not wanting to narrow down and make one choice kind of a moment. I genuinely think it's worth giving multiple pen recommendations since there are some very different styles at play, and that may factor into your, giftability. All of these pens I would be considering for this kind of like heirloom classification, which I think is what you're getting in this price range. Now, one option is gonna be the Lamy 2000, which my loyal viewers will go, duh, of course Brian's gonna say that. It's one of the most popular pens that we sell. It's a great writer, it's stylish, but it's also a bit understated. So it's a good choice if you aren't trying to present something too ostentatious. The 14 karat gold nib writes really well, and I think the fine nib is a really solid choice. The pen has a great build quality and will give them a lifetime of writing enjoyment. Now going in a little bit different direction, I think you should consider the Sailor Pro Gear or Pro Gear Slim. Personally, I like the regular size Pro Gear. I think it's a little better all around, especially especially if you have larger hands, but it's going to be more expensive and it might not really make that much of a difference to your recipient, so it may not be worth the investment as a gift unless you know that they're a pen fan and they would really want that larger pen. The Pro Gear Slim looks almost identical and it writes just as well. Now with Sailor, you're getting great build quality and a really nice fit and finish, just like with the Lamy 2000, but with Sailor, you're getting color. There are over 100 different options for Sailor pens, and it seems like a lot, but it's really not so complicated. If you want a full explanation of Sailor's models and what makes them different, I already made a video on that and you can go check that out. I like the Pro Gear model because of how it looks, and I really like the medallion on top. It looks really classy. With Sailor, they have 7 different nib options, and it can be a bit overwhelming, but I'll make it easier for you. Just go with medium fine. My final pen option is the Pilot Custom 823. This has more of a classic or vintage look, and the presentation on this is fantastic. In a big box with a bottle of Pilot ink. Of these 3 pens, the Pilot has my favorite writing nib, and I think the medium is going to be a good choice as a gift. With pens in this price range, I typically might be inclined to gift a bottle of ink from the matching brand, and all 3 of these brands have great ink. But if you wanted to go boutique, I recommend Jacques Herbin because it looks super classy and very unique. The ink itself is great, and because it's my favorite and it's also incredibly popular, the ink I'm going to recommend is Emerald of Chivor. My paper choice here is going to be the Traveler's Notebook in a regular size, with maybe some extra notebooks. Now it's a great carry-around notebook. It's going to be durable and it can last for decades. The notebooks can be swapped out, so you can keep using that leather cover over and over, and you can fit like 2 or 3 notebooks in there, and you can mix and match different rulings and paper types. Brown cover is going to be the most popular one, but I've been carrying the olive color with me for at least the last 7 years, and it's held up fantastic. So there you have it. Those are my recommendations for fountain pen gifts at every price point. I have to say, this was quite the challenge to narrow down to single items, as there were so many more that I could recommend. I would love to hear what you think of my choices, and also give some love in the comments to the pens, ink, and paper that you think make for great gifts that maybe I didn't mention here today. Now, since I am a fountain pen proprietor and self-sponsor of this whole channel, you're more than welcome to check out all of these items on gouletpens.com. I have them all linked down in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and write on.